I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Campfire Talk. This is where we sit around the fire, put our feet up with a cold drink, and let the conversation flow. Tom, you want to give us our usual intro?
Oh, I sure would. I'd love to. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And if you've made it this far, you've made it the first few seconds into the show. It's going to be a good show. And as usual, we like to hear from you. Send us emails, questions@creekdevil.com. Send stuff in the comments. And, that helps us a bunch. But really helps us is not only hearing from you, but send us a like and subscribe. We love that. Actually, that greedy, hungry algorithm from YouTube loves it, and it shows that you like us. And if you want to take it to the next step, you can do that with YouTube has, or not YouTube, Patreon, with Patreon. So you just go to patreon.com/CreekDevil, or if you're watching us on YouTube, there's a link in the description. Just click on that, follow your nose, and you become a strategic partner with Creek Devil, and that helps us to help you guys. So that was a long-winded intro, but I'll hand the mic back to Will.
I know I should have hit the record button a little earlier because it was non-Bigfoot related stuff that Milo and Tom were talking about, but it was pretty funny. So, Tom, you got a story before we get into the Bigfoot stuff.
Oh, boy, yeah. So, Will and Milo, you guys both know what an AH-1S is, right? Cobra.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay, so a buddy of mine was
attack helicopter pilot. Folks.
Yeah, a helicopter, yeah. attack helicopter 1S. So anyway, this is a funny story. They were in Spain, of all places, and they have those rocket pods on either side, and you go through, and the guy's doing a check.
2.75 inch.
Yeah, well, what's funny about that? There's another follow up, but he was doing the check with the voltmeter. You know those old analog Simpson voltmeters, and check, and he didn't realize one of them still had a missile in it, or a rocket.
And those are electronically fired. Static
electricity, boy.
Oh yeah, it took off. It went down about 1,000 yards down. And it hit it hit one of the hangars, and the hangar was promptly destroyed. Luckily, there was nobody in it. But typical Army stuff. You get the lowest common denominator, working on important things.
I bet there were a few people changing their pants after that one.
There was, in my understanding, Will, Milo, you guys may have heard of this sort of thing, that almost immediately thereafter, there's a chit-chat going from the top down to people.
Well, they got to blame somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, people that have no idea what happened are standing at full attention.
On the carpet.
In the HMFIC's office.
Yeah.
And it's a monologue. It's not a two-way discussion.
Oh, no.
Never.
It's like I'm talking, you're listening.
Yeah. And oh boy,
God.
No, that was something.
Well, I know me and Will have stuff like that, because when somebody loses a dragon tracker, and oh my God, you go back out in the woods until you find it.
Oh, we had guys, lose parts of their M16s, and while they were cleaning them, and they would put everybody. I mean, you put a whole company, 120 some odd guys on their hands and knees, shoulder to shoulder, crawling through the brush to find stuff. That's what they do typically.
This is bizarre.
Only in the military.
I can relate. I can totally relate to all that, because we had guys. Well, because I worked on the multiple launch rocket system, MLRS, which is M270. It it's what we call a force multiplier, and a lot of stuff we did was I repaired them, but we actually learned how to shoot them just in case, because we carried the spare. It was our responsibility to have their spare rocket launcher out there, so we learned how to use it, and during the Gulf War, we shot that thing. Well, we got stupid people who like thinking they're knowing everything, and the funny part is somebody stood behind it when we launched one.
Oh, no. Didn't they learn anything about backblast areas?
Well, we're talking about a 13,000-pound thrust rocket engine.
Oh, God.
Well,
with what, 20 feet of flame behind it?
Oh, my God. And the funny, well, the lucky part was the guy was still in the vehicle when we lit it off. And the range, and everybody said clear the fire, and we gave the countdown, so I didn't get in trouble.
That's the most important thing.
That's right, not getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Was I involved? Was any of that stink on me?
Was I responsible?
Well, now, did you guys have to disassemble, clean your weapons, and reassemble them in the dark?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And learn how to almost do it blindfolded?
We did that for fun. It wasn't a really, really, really requirement, but, it's good to know. That kind of stuff was like, man, you feel for what part it was, and then you had people trying to double them and put weird stuff in when you're blindfolded. So we had people do all kinds of weird stuff like that. Hey, I got a part's missing, and then you're searching for it, and they're moving it on the tart, on the carpet.
What was the saying? You better pull one out of your backside if you lose the part.
Oh my God!
You better find it.
Nowadays they got 3D printers, so now you can just probably poop one.
Well, what's going on Bigfoot wise, guys?
You know what? I'm going to jump in there. I want to lay the groundwork for our professor in Alabama.
Oh, good idea.
He's been having issues on his property. And he would send me a text and say, this is what's going on. And I'll let him, we're going to have him on the show shortly. And what do you think it is? And one of the texts is this howling. And I'm like, John, you know what that is. He's like, I didn't want to hear that.
Forrest you can sympathize with that, right?
Yes.
I don't want to know what that is, but you know what that is.
Yes, it's like, you're an educated person, which I know the professor is. And then, it doesn't even take an educated person, let's face it. But you're sitting here telling yourself, I know what that is, but I don't want that to be what it is. And so therefore, I'm going to lie to myself and tell myself it's something else and get myself to believe that. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're in denial. It's a lot cleaner if it's not. One of the problems he had last year, about late autumn, was his wife would go out and she would fill the hummingbird feeder. Next morning, come back and they're empty. Now, where have we heard that before? That was Carol in
up in Missouri there, and oh God,
yeah.
I
don't remember the town, but yeah, she had the same problem where she'd fill the hummingbird feeders, and then apparently these things have a sweet tooth, and gulp, it'd be all gone.
We talked to somebody else that had that problem too. It's been like several people.
Yeah. And so when I tell John this, he's like, I never even thought of that. I didn't want to think of that. I didn't want to hear that.
I think that happens more often than we think it does.
Well, who would make that connection?
You're right.
The hummingbird.
You wouldn't. You think
No.
squirrels or something else, you know?
Raccoons or something, yeah.
Well,
But-
yeah, but how's the raccoon? They're pretty dexterous, but let's face it, they'd have to be pretty darn good to hang upside down and drink
Well, they got to hang upside down, and then they got to flip the hummingbird feeder
Right.
upside. Yeah, how do they do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the mechanics don't work too well.
No.
So I said, John, you got to look at the ground and see if there's any impressions or footprints. It's like, I got the impression he didn't really want to. He kind of did, but he kind of didn't.
I came across a book. Somebody, in fact, it was one of our previous guests from the UK sent me a information on a book called, let me see, I bought the book, Between Ape and Human. It's about the Hobbit, and it says an anthropologist on the trail of hidden hominid. So I thought, well, you know, I invited the guy on the show. I'm waiting to hear back from him. I thought it'd be interesting to, you know, have somebody come on the show and talk about, you know, of course, you know, we have our own anthropologist, but interesting to have somebody else come on too and get multiple points of view on, you know, possible I guess you'd call them hidden hominids or, you know, great apes.
Well, now I haven't read the book. I know you sent me the copy of that. In fact, I had never even seen that book before, so I'm actually going to have to get a copy of it and read it.
I think it's fairly new.
First, is your voice changing?
No, I'll tell you guys, I cannot tell a lie. I just got up.
I knew it.
I'm a horrible liar, so I won't tell
I'm
you.
a good liar.
You're a good liar. Okay, well, if I need to lie about something, I'll call you, Milo.
Okay.
And then let you tell the story. Okay.
Okay.
That worked out well. But anyway, I have to tell a funny story here. I got home last night and from work, and I get in. And of course, I work that horrible mid-shift 3 to midnight now. So I get home, and all of a sudden I go, Jessica, where's my purse? I'm looking all over. I had dropped my phone in my pocket and in my jacket, and I couldn't find it anywhere. Now, this is after I've been here, you know, what was it, about 1:30? We finally left. And I went, oh, my gosh, I can't find my wallet. And we tore the house apart. And so at 1:30, we load up and drive all the way back to Marble Falls. And I thought, maybe I left it in the basket, you know, when I came out with some groceries. Well, we pulled on the parking lot, and it wasn't in the basket. So we got back in the store, and we go walking through, and everybody's kind of looking at us like, what the heck are y'all doing back here? And I'm like, I'm looking for my wallet. I think I must have had a freaking senior moment or something, because I never got my wallet out of my locker. And it's not a wallet. It's one of those pocketbooks that's on a long, what do you call them?
It's a
It looks like
lanyard?
it looks like,
Yeah,
no,
phone case purse.
it's like a phone case purse. That just I don't get big purses to carry to work, because I'm one of these. If I get a big purse, I got to fill it up. I mean, I just have this burning desire to put everything I can possibly find in there. You know, I don't know why it is. It's almost like, you know, okay, I get a small purse, so I fill it up. Well, I get a bigger purse, let's fill it up with more stuff. Oh, well, let me just get a frickin' suitcase and carry it to work. Well, I'll have it full before, you know it. I don't know what it is. My mother was the same way. It's like, you know, you'd open it up and you'd go, why in the devil do I have all this stuff in here? And I can't answer it. It's just some burning desire to fill it up. So, I don't know. But anyway, so we had to drive all the way back to Marble Falls and then turn around and come all the way back. And so it was like 3 o'clock before both of us got to bed. And poor Jessica, she just came dragging in here and knocked on the door. I had to mute y'all, because she was like, I just got up too. So, yeah, she brought me a cup of coffee so I can talk to you, Milo. I can hold after one cup of coffee, I can at least hold my own with you.
I try to sleep. I tell myself I'm going to sleep in. At 7 o'clock, my eyes are like, bing, open. I can't do it.
I can't. I mean, after being in the military all these years, I could go to bed at 10 o'clock. I wake up at 3:30. I go to bed at 12 a.m. or midnight, and I still get up at 3:30. I can go to bed at 7:30 p.m. and I still wake up at 3:30. Figure that one out. It's always 3:30.
Was that the time you had to get up in the military?
Pretty much, because you had to get all your stuff ready before you go out and yell at your troops because they didn't get their crap ready.
Oh man, I remember doing that. You'd be up at 4:30 in the morning, and the guys didn't have to be at work till 7:20. But you're the one, when you're the sergeant, you got to make sure that it's like kids. You got to make sure they're off to breakfast, they're dressed, their rooms are clean, all that crap, before they start working. And then you remember, Milo, we'd always have to stay for a couple hours after they were released from duty at 5 o'clock.
Yep, because we had commanders call, all kinds of weird stuff.
What's that, Forrest?
Milo.
Did you hear me?
No, what was that?
Jessica's standing here, and she said that not anymore. Of course, she was in the Army, so she said not anymore. They don't make you do that.
Boy, they got lucky.
They do an inspection every now and then, but it's their own. It's apartments now. Literally, the single soldiers are in apartments, pretty much.
Wow.
So you miss out the fun of going and destroying their rooms when they didn't do what you told them to?
Yeah.
We used to take the doors off.
Oh, that used to make my day, going in and you see the pictures from basic training. I used to do it in regular units after being a drill sergeant. So they said, you can't do that. And I say, you want to bet?
When we were trying to get certified to go to Iraq, right? Because your unit has to get certified before you go to war. Weird.
Right.
But anyway, I told all my troops. Well, I told all my troops, don't talk to me until you see me actually drink my second cup of coffee. The first one's mine. The second one, I will tolerate you.
So I got a question for Milo and Jessica, because both of you served in the Gulf. This is something my nephew and I were yakking the other day, and he was over there. And he said the worst thing that would happen, he'd be sleeping, and you got the air conditioning going and all that.
What? Air conditioning?
Well, in the tents.
Where the hell did they stay?
Well, he was in a medical unit, so I guess he had to keep it cool.
He wasn't in the Gulf War then. He wasn't in the Gulf.
Yeah, he was. Oh, yeah,
he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
And then he said, it quits.
Good.
And you're like, oh, in about 3 minutes, it is so hot. You're dying.
Yeah,
so there's a question. It sounds like you didn't have that, Milo, but how about Jessica? Did you experience anything like that?
I actually did have air conditioning in my building, and
building.
No, I meant tents.
Oh,
building.
Afghanistan.
You guys are
She was in Afghanistan.
You guys are going to send.
When they were closing everything down.
You're going to send Milo into a tailspin here, guys.
Of course, a lot of it's like I'm Intel, so we actually have to have air conditioning because.
Oh, sure.
No, their equipment, Milo. They don't care about
I know. Look, I totally, that's.
I tell you what's cool about the Intel units is the laptops. You guys had the best hardened mil-spec laptops. I was looking at buying some brand new. I think they're Panasonic. They're like $3,000 online. But I want one. They're just way cool.
Dude, I
They
had
are
night
amazing.
vision goggles and cool stuff like that.
I would go for that.
But that's why we have the air conditioning, because they don't want to have to spend that money to replace them.
What?
Yeah. She said that's why they have the air conditioning, because they don't want to have to spend the money to replace them.
That's
Oh.
true. Very true.
Yeah, all that equipment is expensive. But anyway, I do want to say
Comes to
something.
you.
And now that I've
God.
had my cup of coffee, Milo, see now my mouth is running.
That's nice.
And when y'all were,
I like a running mouth.
When y'all, yeah, you're in major trouble. Anyway, when y'all were talking about having to go to the forest to look for a part that fell off of an M16 or something.
It didn't matter any military stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It gets
Anything.
lost. The unit
I know.
stops.
Okay, well, let me tell you about the Air Force. My husband, was in the Air Force, and they had lost a piece of equipment. Like something like a screwdriver. One of the guys couldn't find his frickin' screwdriver. You know what they have to do? They have to go back in on the aircraft that they were working on, and they have to go through it. He actually had a scope like a camera that they go in, and if they can't find it with that without taking the airplane apart, guess what they start having to do?
Well,
Take it
Take
apart.
the airplane apart
you know,
that they just repaired.
do you know
Same
why?
thing on vessels, though.
You know why, don't you? You know why, don't you?
Well, yeah,
Because if
can
you're
you
20
imagine if that thing
if
got-
if you're
you're up at
20,000 feet, and somebody says,
that
"What's that noise?"
Yeah.
that's the worst thing you could hear.
Something that it shouldn't be in, and you got a $50 billion plane coming, falling out of the air, with two pilots. And,
So
and
this kind of
stuff at risk.
This kind of goes to something Bigfoot related. When people say, like, supposedly, dead Sasquatches were found at Mount St. Helens. Of course, Milo and I both know that wasn't the case because we were both there when it erupted and afterwards. But when there's small things,
Should I say something?
when there's small things like a screwdriver missing or something, I mean, look at the lengths. And Milo and Jessica, you guys know this. The lengths the military will go after to find something like that. So if something like that occurred, everybody would have known it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah.
Well, I got stuck out there when Mount St. Helens blew up. I was on the helicopter as part of a scout team, and the pilot or the load, the crew chief told me to go ahead and jump. I jumped. I got stuck in that crap for like 5 hours because nobody had anything to get me out with.
Oh, geez.
Well, let me ask you this. Because one of the things that helos hate is that gritty stuff.
Well,
turbine blades.
they put the base Fort Lewis on alert every time the mountain blew that year because they were afraid that ash was going to come north, and they would have had to evacuate all the aircraft from both Fort Lewis and McCord because of that ash.
McCord.
Yeah, they told me, they said if that stuff would have got in the bearings, that aircraft would have had to been scrapped.
Yeah. No, I remember when hurricane came into the East Coast, and at least you got some advance notice by 24, 48 hours. And I had a buddy of mine that was a Navy chief. He goes, trying to think of a polite way of putting this. He goes, when those cluster gaggles happen, he's like,
I like that. I caught on. I got that.
They got to send guys out to bars and homes and to girlfriends' homes, and you're trying to, because they're trying to sortie the fleet to get them out of port, out to sea before the hurricane hits, because the hurricane was destined for the port, and that just cracked me up. Yep, you got to get it, and you've got to get all your ships out to sea, and it may sound counterintuitive, but that's what you do in a storm. Is your ships are much safer at sea than they are close to land because you don't have any rocks and stuff out at sea.
But
well, that's the same way they do with their aircraft too. Now, when we had a volcano blow, and I think I told you about this, when one had blown across the inlet, and that stuff came. I mean, they thought that we had it was very similar to a pyroclastic flow, but it turned out that it stopped about a little ways off the coast of this volcano, but it was actually across the inlet from Anchorage there, and that was the most frightening thing, to watch that roll across the water there. But that's what they did with the planes. They were put in and sealed, that those hangars were sealed up, and I mean, and if they couldn't, the big AWACS, as I recall, were sent out. They were put in the air and they were sent out, because we had at that point in time 2 AWACS. In fact, y'all probably remember we lost one up there with 29 men. I watched that plane go down, and that was me and another girl, and her husband was a SP there, and of course my husband, thank God, wasn't on the crew that worked on that thing, but because you know what they do to them, they they put them in quarters, and then that crash is analyzed, and my husband was one of those that had to analyze the crash until they determined that it wasn't a mistake on the part of the crew that brought that plane in.
Yeah, it's got to be a ton of fun.
So
because those guys can end up Article 16. You're out.
I got a question for that, because now your husband was still in the Air Force then, right?
Oh yeah.
So then the NTSB do they even get a chance, or is it all just in-house, Air Force related?
It's handled mostly in-house. I didn't know at the time, because I remember Patricia and I were up. I was working for a stock brokerage at the time. It was only, of course, when you're up there, you don't get to do the jobs that you would like to do. But the only anthropology job and archaeology job that was available was out on one island, and I'd have been the only one white female want to send me out there on this island by myself, because of it has a lot to do with the alcohol-related incidences that they have with the natives, and that's just a very sad situation. But anyway,
Boris, I got a question for you.
But that we watched that plane actually. We realized that something had happened. Well, yeah, we were up on the 5th floor of the Diamond Building, and we could see it, and it started when they first took off, and it started banking, and it almost caught the hospital, and this guy absolutely did a marvelous job. It started, what had happened, they had sucked in Canadian geese on one side of the plane, and those engines went completely out, and so it started to cause the plane to drift, and then it completely flipped upside down, and it was just a real. I mean, we saw it, and it was horrible. I mean, I think the last thing the pilot said is that, say your prayers, boys, because we're all about to die. And and it was sad, because I had one of the fire chief was a very, very good friend of mine, and Mike, I probably shouldn't, but Mike Sweet had to identify his cousin. And there were some of the guys, and I don't know if people are aware about these AWACS. They have there's like 2 ways into those things. They're just like a huge tube of nothing but computer banks inside. And they were getting ready to go out over the Pacific and up there all around the Russian coast, and they were loaded with hundreds of thousands of pounds of fuel. So that plane literally went down and went for like a quarter of a mile into the forest. But he struggled to keep that plane from hitting I'm going to start crying here thinking about it, because we watched it. We were both bawling, because we knew what had happened when we saw the plume of smoke and the fire and everything else. He struggled and kept that thing from hitting that hospital. If it had hit the hospital, God only knows how many more people would have died. But he managed it, and that thing flipped over on its back, and one or two guys actually got to one of the exits, but the exit door wouldn't open. So it was horrible. It really was.
Yeah,
People don't understand what the military does to keep this country safe. They do not understand what people do, and they suffer to keep this country safe.
Well, it's a very high risk occupation. It's a very, you go into harm's way all the time. I've got a kind of an unrelated question, but this is a question I'd asked you a while back, just you and I chit-chatting. This has to do with archaeological digs and finds. I follow some of these, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, we found this ancient site in the Middle East, and it's under 20 feet of sand, dirt, whatever. And the question that I have, and it seems to be maybe over here too, how does that happen? Maybe there's time involved, but that seems like, where does all that dirt come from? How does that happen? And what are your thoughts on that?
You're asking me? Well, people don't realize that. I'm gonna tell you stuff. I have lost stuff around here, and we found it.
Not under 20 feet of dirt.
Well, not under 20 feet of dirt. But I tell you what, you wonder, how did all that accumulate? Because people don't understand, dirt. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Especially in some of these, in the Middle East especially. You've got a lot of sand and stuff that's moving around with wind. And when Troy was found, everybody said, "Oh, it didn't exist. It wasn't real." Yes.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
guess
exactly.
what? Heinrich Schliemann found it, and God, guess what? It was real. And I mean, it was under. I don't remember how many feet of debris and stuff, but what happens is a lot of these sites is people go in and it gets covered over with sand, and it doesn't even have to be a lot, Tom. And then they build on top of that. That's what's happening all the time, is they're building, and then something happens, whether it be a war or something, that gets leveled, and then they build more on it. We see this all over Europe, when they go in and they put in, sewer systems, water systems, whatever, and they go down and they go, "Oh, my goodness, what is this? I have just found a site." They do it here in Texas all the time.
And a lot of times...
Well, they do it. Seattle, underneath is the underground town of Seattle. It's still there.
Yeah, San Francisco has the same thing.
I've been there.
Look at
Yeah.
Atlanta. You got
one in
Atlanta,
Seattle.
the underground of Atlanta. And that's how it happens. But, I mean, I was amazed. I don't remember I was looking for a hoe or something out here, and I'm like, where in the heck did that go? And the grass had overgrown it, and then, lo and behold, the horses had kicked up some muck and stuff like that. And this thing was, all I could see was just a little end of it, and I had to work to get the darn thing up and out. And I was like, my God, this was a brand new hoe. How did that get over there? And it was just because a girl that used to work for me had left it out there, and it got knocked down, and it got covered up, and then it got grown over, and things like that happen. Yeah.
Well, and it's not, archaeologists don't just trip over things out there. When you look at an area, and this is, what they taught us in the field school and working on a couple of digs.
Well, sometimes you do.
Sometimes
you do, Will.
But
You just
sometimes,
trip over things.
but most often, they'll do research old stories of an area. And a lot like with Troy, a lot of those stories, people poo-pooed for a long time until some of the researchers started saying, well, okay, let's take a look at this. Then you look at geologic and atmospheric processes and, like you say, wars and people building on top of things. And, they're guessing a lot of times, but it's guesses based on information that they've researched ahead of time. So I guess, if you were to look at things like, and I know what I worked on, the couple of sites were Native American, and they were very rudimentary kind of sites. What we'd end up finding was they're garbage dumps. That's what you find, but we knew where to look because historically, ancient natives would camp in certain places, usually where two bodies of water come together, and that would be kind of the place where they would do that. Then we could, dig up the garbage dump, which was mostly clamshells and things like that, and kind of get an idea of what their diet was and stuff like that. But so, Tom, I'm not sure how we tie that into Bigfoot. I guess maybe in.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with this. Is how can we tie it into Bigfoot, where you get a lot of very valid questions from people, and that is, why don't we have bones? Why don't we have a body? Why don't we have some physical evidence? And the question that would sort of tie into this is, why isn't there, what happens to a carcass? If Bigfoot doesn't haul it off and do whatever they do with it, what could happen to a carcass if it's left to its own devices, either in a dry desert or in the moist woods of the Pacific Northwest?
Well, in the Northwest.
Well, if it's in a
go ahead.
If it's in a desert situation, it most likely will just become, dried out and desiccated, and then get covered up by blowing sands and such as that. And you have insect, activity all the time, and it's the same thing in moist areas. And your forests are what y'all have on the West Coast is more like a rainforest type situation up there in the Oregon and Washington areas. And the forests like that, pine forests, are very acidic, the soil is. So that works on a body very rapidly. And they had actually done studies. There was one study out there, and y'all could probably find it. And I think it might have been in association with actually Monster Quest, because people do bring this up all the time. And they put a deer carcass that had been killed, it was roadkill, staked it out in the forest to see just how long, and they put a camera on it just to see how long that it would take. And within, I'm telling you, 5 or 6 days, that the insect activity on it had pretty much completely destroyed that carcass. And then all you had left was the bones. Well, then you got your little porcupines that love the calcium in the bone, so they pick up a bone and they cart it off. They're not going to, and then coyotes come in and they're going to break up those bones and get whatever they can that's inside of them. They don't just sit there. They grab it and they go off someplace where they can eat it in secret. So you've got this complete distribution of bones that is then taken care of by wildlife. And I just wonder how many times that maybe a Bigfoot carcass did maybe exist, and then people, they see the big bones, they pick them up, and or even other animals pick it up. I mean, people, I don't think that the average person, unless there's a skull sitting there, is going to even recognize that a femur or a long bone on a Bigfoot carcass would even, I don't think they would recognize it necessarily as being from a primate versus being from a ungulate.
There were actually 2 stories in one of Green's books, or a couple of his books, the people, we've talked about them before. One was, the couple up in British Columbia that went on their prospecting vacation, and when they went to get in the canoes, they found the corpse of one of these things that was about half decayed by the edge of the lake. And they had a little argument. Remember, Tom, the wife snuck the jawbone of the dead creature into her pack, and it sat in her mantelpiece for 14 years till the house burnt down. And then there was another one, a place called, I'm trying to think if it was Thompson. It wasn't Thompson Flat. It was north of there. Anyway, where a couple of young girls were out on a logging road, they come across, again, a half decayed carcass of one of these things on this old logging road. And, they didn't say anything. Nobody knew about it. So it rotted away right then and there. So these things have been seen dead before. Even, of course, in the Jacko story, that's where, they had the live juvenile, and it apparently died on the trip to Europe. And, of course, in those days, in the 1880s, they would have just thrown it overboard.
One of the questions that we brought up, and I'm just curious if, Forrest, this is kind of directed at you, but also Will, is what is the possibility that there could be some preserved bones that are sitting in boxes in universities unidentified, just waiting for the right student or professor to come along and do the research on them and make the connection.
Well, people oftentimes think that just because particular archaeological sites or even things that are found in situ on the ground, people, individuals other than universities can pick those things up, and that's how they could be sitting in somebody's attic somewhere and not be known. But universities pick up a lot of stuff, and the Smithsonian as well, that had stuff shipped to it, and that stuff sits in boxes very often for a long, long time.
Until somebody takes an interest.
Well, until somebody happens to open up a case, and this is a case in point, where somebody opened up. They're put in these huge sliding drawers on these cabinets, and imagine your grandmother's Chester drawers, only on about 3 times the size, sitting in these archaeological warehouses and rooms, and somebody opens a drawer and looks at this piece of wood and goes, that looks familiar. Let me turn it around this way. And then reads it, and it came out of an Indian mound, and it says, in the name of Judah. Ooh, where did that, how did that get there? And it came out of an Indian mound. There's a lot of discoveries made that way.
So, here's something, too.
Those little pesky Jews were over here in North America. Oh, my God.
Here's something, too, though. All that stuff doesn't go to just universities. There are facilities around. There's one in Humboldt County, for example, and I believe it's attached to law enforcement, where people find all the time human fingers, toes, nothing else, just that. And they want to send it in to somebody, and they have no idea. Police have no idea once they get it. So they go to these facilities, and our forensic anthropologist John talked about that a few times, where they go to these facilities, and they could very well be Bigfoot, bones. The average person wouldn't know. They could be just sitting there, warehoused forever. Nobody'd ever know.
Well, that's true, but and there's a lot of anthropology departments that get a lot of these discarded bodies and stuff that never got identified. And in the past, they went to universities, and then they were put in, and you have to deflesh them and desiccate them and stuff so that the bones could be used. They were donated to universities for that. So that's what had been done in the past. Now, nowadays, of course, with the advent of DNA, they're making an attempt to, try to trace all these. And of course, DNA has become more affordable, and so the counties aren't instead of spending $100,000 to identify a body, now they're spending more like, I don't actually have any idea what it costs to do DNA testing, but it is more affordable now because we have several companies here in Texas that do just that actually are responsible. There's one place down in Houston that's now responsible for having solved a lot of these serial killers, cases, and identifying the serial killers because they have been able to find DNA on bodies and such that was stored properly. But yeah, it's out there, and of course, like I say, with the advent of DNA now, they're able to identify these bones and properly place them back with families and stuff. So I don't think you have as many of those types of situations occurring now as you might have had in, say, 10, 20 years ago happening. So they're probably not as many of them in storage now. But yeah, it happens. I mean, what do? You find an arm or a hand, what are you going to do with it? You're not going to take it over and stick it. Well, some people might in their house, but they're going to call the officials and say, "Here, look what my kid found or my dog brought in or whatever." How many times do you hear about people? Your dog brings in a skull. What a fun thing, to find on your property. So
great.
Yeah.
Well, here's an interesting one.
Goddamn phone.
I was watching a show where they're doing DNA analysis of this, that, and the other, and they did DNA analysis, and it came up as unknown. Okay, so the question I have is, I wonder, and I would hope that they would take that unknown DNA result, store it somewhere, and wait down the road and see if, oh, here's another one, 3-4 years later, another one unknown, but it was connected by a witness to Bigfoot or, something along those lines. Forrest, I know this is getting a little bit out of your lane, but do you have any thoughts as to whether or not unknown DNA analysis results, are they kept and they just hold on to them to see what that produces down the road, or do they just kind of chuck it?
Well, no, I don't think they chuck it. And I can't speak to what other people would do, but I would think, most people in scientific fields are very curious. We're curious critters. And, they're not going to just throw things away. And I think that in a situation where they might find something that's considered unknown, I think that just like DNA that they found in the past when they couldn't, I go back to these, I like to watch the true crime stuff because I love forensic anthropology. And I will say this, that you guys are going to laugh at me. Tom and I discussed this because I actually checked on this. I thought, I'll be honest with you, I thought that to be a forensic anthropologist and work as even as a coroner, which is not necessarily involved in autopsies and such, but that you had to have some sort of a medical background and degree. Well, you don't. And I could, and I've actually been looking at those type of jobs recently. So they just ask that you they usually require that you have a master's in anthropology or better. So that's all. That's all that's required. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Most of us have this horrible, curious thing that just keeps itching at us. What is it? What is it? What is it? So they keep it until they find, can figure out or come up with an answer. And this is why these guys, even the detectives and stuff, and these crime situations have held on to these DNA, pieces of clothing, or even DNA, the rape kits and such on deceased victims, that they've held on to this stuff, and that's how they have caught these horrible guys that have committed these atrocious murders and stuff out there, and get up into their 60s and 70s and think, oh well, I'm free. Look at me. Well, no, it's not I'm free, look at me anymore, because they're going to be looking at you all right, but it's going to be behind bars. So that's the wonderful advent of DNA, what we're looking at today. So, yeah, that's I don't think they throw it away, Tom. I think it's all held on to, and they're going to do something about it when there's something more.
Yeah, well, that's good. And they were just, they're analyzing.
Right where something more advanced comes along, then they're going to, be able to use that.
Yeah, and it was this actually came from an animal, and they're like, well, we don't know what animal it is, but, and I was like, okay, whatever you do, don't chuck it, store it away, and hopefully it's in a shared system where other researchers and scientists have access to that information.
Well, yeah, and like I say, look at these detectives that have had all this stuff that's been in storage for, they're solving crimes from 40 and 50 years ago now. And I think it's just wonderful. I love seeing those guys, they come knock on their door, and the look of surprise on their face when they've got 10, police department fellows and FBI agents and all that looking at them with smiles on their face and that little piece of paper in their hand and the handcuffs dangling. Guess where you're going, buddy? We finally found you. And, it's happening on a daily basis. And, it's wonderful.
They have. Oh, yeah.
It is. It's wonderful. And having being a grandmother of a murdered, you guys know this, of a child that was murdered. Of course, we were lucky they caught the guy within 2 weeks. But, you can't understand that wonderful feeling that comes over you when you know that they're, behind the bars forever and ever and ever. So, anyway, I don't know. The rest of you guys might have not. Milo, you probably didn't know that.
No, nope.
Yeah.
Good. I hope the guy rots.
Well, we were hoping that he was going to get the needle, but he pled out, and it was a double capital murder, and it was, it just goes to show, try to be a good Samaritan, because sometimes, no good deed goes how's that go? No good deed goes unpaid. Well, yeah, that's what happened. So, I didn't get to watch him put the needle in him, but, hey, he will never get out of Texas jail. So,
guys, we're going to wrap up shortly. Tom needs to go. So, any final thoughts before we wrap this session up, guys? Forrest, how about you?
Well,
Tom, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, interesting discussion. We got on topic, off topic, on topic, off topic.
It's the way it goes sometimes.
I hope our audience finds this an enjoyable discussion, though.
Yeah, you never know where this talk's going to go. Forrest, how about you?
Well, you guys know me. Sometimes I get vaccinated. My mother used to say I was vaccinated with a phonograph needle, so sometimes you just need to say, shut up, Forrest. But, I'm always full of talk, especially when you get a cup of coffee in me. But anyway, I think that people need to understand with DNA that I think there's hope out there that, sooner or later. I mean, we have had incidences where they have brought items in, whether it be hair or other pieces of, animals' bodies that have been tested as an unknown primate. And, this is going to continue, and sooner or later somebody's going to say, we've got to find out what this unknown primate is. So, you know what, guys, it's probably already been done, and we just don't know about it,
Milo, how about you?
That's what I think.
Hey, tell Jessica thank her for her service, and yeah, building stuff really funny, haha.
We haven't heard from Chuck, so Chuck, how about you?
I'm just taking all this in. You guys are way above my league.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, listen.
I have no idea what that meant.
We're gonna wrap up here, folks. Thanks for joining us, and stop by next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out there.